Hello and welcome to IELTS Live Thursday. So every Thursday I do a live and address a particular IELTS topic. Today's about writing, and I want to go through the writing process from 0 to band 8. So if you have no idea how to start with the writing, then watch this short video because it will help you to get started. If you're stuck further along in the process, then there are also things that you can do to move yourself forward. So I want to look at the whole process from the first time you try to write an IELTS essay, an IELTS task, and it works for both task 1 and task 2, and for both general training and academic, because the process of writing is exactly the same. The only difference is that the topics obviously are different and the tasks that you have to do are different, but the process itself is the same. Okay, so let me get started. So this is quite important, taking it a step at a time. So I've got 6 steps here that if you want to be successful in writing, you need to go through. But I'm aware that some of you might be right at the beginning and you don't know how to start. And some of you might be near to band 7 or to band 8, but you keep missing that band. So you need some help to improve your writing for the last part of this process. So wherever you are, there will be a step at which you can slot in. Okay, so before I get started, let me just see if anybody's here. Not yet. I hope people come along later. So let's start with the 6 steps. I'm just going to summarize them. So step 1 is at sentence level. Now, typically, when I've done this stage, it is with students who are around band 4 and 5, and they don't know how to construct a task, either task 1 or task 2. So what I would do is just look at the topic and get them just to write down 4 sentences to begin with about that topic, anything at all connected with the topic. Whether it's task 1, task 2, it doesn't matter. So if you are absolutely starting out, you can work on sentence level and just write down sentences about the topic, about the question. You don't have to join them together at this stage. It's just getting some words on paper. And with lower bands, sort of band 4, 5 and 6, up to 6, I would say, this is the best way to get started. Okay, then step 2, once you've done a lot of these sentences, and I'll explain what you have to do with them in a moment, then you move on to planning out your writing and also correcting. And I mean here correcting as you go along, so eliminating mistakes. Step 3 then is looking at linking words. How do you join your sentences and your ideas together? Because linking words are about joining ideas and sentences. And cohesion is about sentence to sentence, but it's also paragraph to paragraph and idea to idea. And then you need to start in this stage thinking about your vocabulary, avoiding repetition, adding in new words. Okay, then we can move on to more complex writing. Have you got lots of complex sentences? Are you using noun phrases? So if you're around 6.5 and you want a safe 7, you need to probably start around step 4. And then step 5, things that are working, you recycle. So if you've got some devices, some sentence types, and they are working, then just keep using them over and over, and you start developing your writing. And now you're at the stage where your writing is probably approaching 7, well, it's probably at 7 or at 8, and you need to just keep practicing until the day of your exam, and then you can start thinking about booking your exam. Now, you can start where you feel you are. So I would say step 1 around band 4, 5. Step 2, if you're around band 6, you can focus on this. If you're getting 6.5 but not managing the 7, maybe you need to be looking at step 3 and 4. And if you're getting 7 and you want 8, or if you're not getting 7 but it's almost there, then you need to look at step 5 and 6. Now, how long these steps take is difficult to say. Step 1, when I've worked with some sort of band 5 students, we've managed to do step 1 in a week or 2 and then moved on to step 2. Step 2 may also take just a few weeks. Once you get into step 3, you're talking about a longer time. So that may take longer for you to get steps 3 and 4. I would say if you took your test and you're at band, let's say band 6.5 and you want 7, then you could probably do that in a month. If you want 8, it might take a bit longer. If you're at band 5 and you want band 8, then you're probably talking about maybe 6 months. But it's very difficult to tell because it differs from person to person depending on what the issues are. Okay, so those are the 6 steps that I find, and I've done this for many, many years, and I've looked at how students develop their writing up to the point at which they get 7.5 or 8 in the exam. Not many get 8. It isn't actually awarded that often. A lot will get 7.5. But this is this process that everybody goes through at some stage. Okay, let's drill down a little bit into those. So let's look at the first 2 steps. In step 1, it's just about writing sentences and making sure those sentences are correct grammatically initially. You need to have good, correct, simple sentences. They don't have to be complicated, just simple sentences about the topic and the question. And then once you're confident about writing individual sentences, you can start to combine them using simple linking words at first, and then you can use more sophisticated ones. I've had band 5 students using things like moreover and furthermore. It's not difficult to do that. So you can start there. Then start to learn some new vocabulary. So at this stage, you're probably using quite simple words. So try and learn some synonyms to replace those simple words. These can be nouns or verbs or adjectives or adverbs or any other kind of vocabulary item. And start to introduce new vocabulary. Okay, make sure you focus on your grammar. So if you've got a lot of sentences that you're combining well, then maybe you might want to use gerunds, or you might want to use past participles or something like that, or experiment with maybe present perfect. So you can do all of this in this stage 1. Okay. Now, when we get to step 1, we should by now have at least a paragraph. So now we can start to plan out the task. So what are we going to put into our task? What needs to go in according to the question? So in order to do that, you need to analyze the question, analyze the data, analyze the letter task. Then you need to brainstorm some ideas, and then you put those down in a plan. And I have lots of planning material that I've put into these lives before. Okay, if your plan is good, you should use it then to start writing your task. And if you spend time on the plan, it will be good. Don't go away from it, because that will waste time, and it's a risky thing to do. Focus also on removing any errors. So check your sentences as you write. Now, we're not talking about exam practice here. We're talking about your actual study when you're preparing for IELTS. So you don't need to worry about doing it in 1 hour. You might just write the first paragraph and spend, you know, an hour on your first paragraph. So you've got time to look at your sentence structures to see if there are any mistakes, missing articles, wrong prepositions, lack of agreement of subject and verb. All of these things, if you do it as you go along, then when you get to the end, you won't have to check very much. And the more you do it as you go along, the more it will become second nature. And then start to develop a good structure in terms of your paragraphing, and then a good structure in terms of your sentence relationships and the flow of ideas. So all of this happens in step 2. Okay, so before I go on to, and then make sure that in your practice you allow the time. So make time for planning, make time for checking, and always do this with your writing. And in that way, when you come to the exam, you'll do it automatically, and you won't be giving a piece of writing to the examiner which is full of mistakes. That's what you want to avoid. Okay, so before I go on to steps 3 or 4, let me just see if there are any comments. Nope, I don't know if anybody's here. I can't see anybody. Sometimes it doesn't always show me. Okay, let's go on to steps 3 and 4. So by now you should be able to write a whole task, and you should have quite good linking words, and you should have quite good sentence structures, and you should have a good answer and some good cohesion. So you should have around a 6.5 essay. Right. So now in step 3, we're going to start looking at linking words more and linking devices more, so that we've got a good bank of these to use. And we're going to have a lot of variety in how we link the ideas and the sentences and the paragraphs too. Start expanding vocabulary even more. Look at the topic vocabulary. Look at different synonyms for words that you may use a lot. For example, things like child, things like education, things like health. So you need a bank of good synonyms for these topics. Think about collocation. You know, which words go together. That is where sometimes students fall down in their writing. So you can spend time just looking at vocabulary on its own without writing your task. So, you know, on one of your days of practice, just spend time on vocabulary. Just look at synonyms or just look at collocation. Try to avoid very simple verbs, It's the easiest way to improve your vocabulary. So replace words like is, where you can. Never use get. There's always a better word. So think about verbs, and it is a very quick way of improving your vocabulary. Okay, so now when we get to step 4, you should have a good range of vocabulary, a good range of linking words and devices, and your writing should be developing well. Now start to think about more complex sentences. So how can I introduce these? Maybe you want to use a conditional sentence. Maybe you want to use a not only but also. So think about how you can introduce more complex sentences into your writing. Think about using noun phrases rather than verb phrases. So instead of using things like there is, there are, think about how you can start with a noun so that you've got more formal sounding language. And keep developing your grammar. Think about passive. This is really important in formal letters, for example, in processes, if you're doing academic task 1, and also in all of task 2 writing. It's a very formal method of writing using passive. Gerunds and past participles are also good for making your writing economical and also for linking things together. So do some work on these more advanced grammar devices. Okay, and then now we get to step 5 and 6. Now, I believe very strongly that at this stage of your writing development, you should be getting feedback from a professional. Now, that could mean joining a group on Facebook, and there are some where you can post your writing and get some feedback. If you have plenty of time, that's a good thing to do, because a lot of these teachers are very busy and they don't always have the time to give you feedback straight away. But it is a way of getting feedback. If your exam is looming, then you're probably better paying an IELTS teacher to check your writing. And it's really critical at this stage that you get it checked, because if there's anything in your writing that you don't know about, and there probably are things, and that are going to cause you a problem in the exam, then now is the time to find out about them so you can correct them before you get to the exam. So, you're developing, you'll be looking at models. Be careful about the models you choose, because there are plenty online that say band 9 and they are not band 9 and they would never get band 9. To my mind, the best models to check are those that are in the Cambridge books, because they are written by examiners. And there are some people online who are like myself, ex-examiners, and they know how to write the kind of tasks that will get the high scores. So just be a bit discerning and be careful what you choose. Okay, any words, phrases, sentences, sentence structures that you like and you can use well, and your teacher tells you use this, then keep recycling them, keep reusing them. The teacher, I sometimes see a similar essay from my students maybe 5-6 times. It doesn't matter if it's correct and it's good and it's going to get the band. The examiner will only see it once. So don't worry about writing the same thing over and over in terms of sentence structures, linking devices, etc. Because, as I said, the examiner will only see it that one time. Have a mental checklist of the mistakes that you keep making. You'll know what they are. Maybe you often miss out an article. Maybe you always get the wrong preposition. Work on these areas and make sure that when you check your writing at the end, these are the things you check first, because they are simple to spot, you know you do it, and you don't want to send them to the examiner. Okay, step 6. Don't change anything now. Don't start doing new things. Stick to what works, what will get you the band according to the teacher that checks your writing. And then just keep writing that level of writing. Obviously, if you get a different topic, you will have to learn some new words for that topic, and you may have to change things according to the topic. But what I'm talking about here is the types of sentence structure, the linking words you use, the devices you use for complex sentences. These are the things that you should keep doing. So, for example, if you're using conditionals and your conditional sentences are good, keep using them. Don't not use them. If you're using not only but also, or any of these other devices and they work well, just keep using them. Stop researching now. At this stage, you have to use what you already know, because you need to be absolutely prepared to produce that essay in the exam. So don't do any more work on vocabulary, don't do any more work on topic related, unless it's a topic you've never seen before. At this stage, you should be ready to write every task from what you already know, and that way you'll be ready for the exam. And keep practicing, just keep practicing. Okay. So before I go on with this last bit, let me see if, whoops, it's not letting me come out. Okay, never mind. There we go. I just want to see if there are any comments or questions. Nope. Okay. Right, let me go back. So finally, the exam. Once you've done all these stages and you've spent time on it and you've got feedback, you will know that you're ready to take the exam. So if it's band 7, if it's band 8, you will have gone through all the steps 1 to 6, and you will now be ready and feel ready. You'll feel confident that you can take the exam. So you can book it. If you still have some doubts, then don't book it too soon. Maybe give yourself another 2-3 weeks so that you can work on that to build your confidence further. But you will, when I'm working with students on writing, there comes a stage where I know they can get this score in the exam, and you should feel that as well. I know I can get this score in the exam, and once you feel like that, then it's time to book it. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say. To get support from me, there are 3 things you can do. I have some free resources. Some of them include things about planning your writing, and also a handout about this stage. So if you want the free resources, just put free resources in the comments and I'll get those to you. The other 2 things you can do to get direct help from me, which, as I'll reiterate, is especially important if you're at stage 5 and 6 on this in this process, then you can join the IELTS Champions Club. It's $27 for a month, and you can post your writing and I will give you personal feedback. And finally, if you want one-to-one help with your writing, I have a course which is called the IELTS Writing Bootcamp, and that's where we would work one-on-one. If you want to know about that, then send me a DM and I can explain everything about that course. Okay, so let me come back. That's all I wanted to say. I hope that's useful. Remember, you can start at any point on these 6 steps. If you've never done any writing before, start at 1. If you're almost near your exam, but you're not sure if you're going to get your 7 or your 8, then I would recommend you start around maybe 5 and 6. Maybe 4 if you're not doing that. But just come in wherever you are and then work through the remaining steps. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I'll see you next week in another IELTS Live Thursday. If there's anything specific you need to know about or you want me to cover in these lives, please just let me know. Put a post, put a comment, and I'm happy to cover any topic in the Thursday lives. Okay, have a good weekend and happy study. Bye everybody.